Imagine building a shopping center, hotel, or office building without having to buy the land underneath it. This is exactly what happens in a land lease, a unique real estate arrangement that separates land ownership from building ownership. A land lease, also called a ground lease, is an agreement where a tenant leases land from an owner but owns any structures built on that land. These leases typically span 50 to 99 years, giving tenants enough time to develop the property and recoup their investment. The arrangement might sound unusual at first. Why would someone invest millions in constructing a building on land they don't own? The answer lies in the practical benefits this structure provides. Land leases appear across many property types. Commercial developments like shopping centers, office buildings, and hotels frequently sit on leased land. Agricultural operations use land leases when farmers want to grow crops or raise livestock without purchasing expensive acreage. Mobile home parks represent another common application, where residents own their homes but lease the land beneath them. Renewable energy projects, including solar and wind farms, often operate on leased land due to their massive space requirements. Even public infrastructure like airports and transportation hubs sometimes lease land from private entities. For tenants, the primary advantage is accessing prime locations that would be financially out of reach otherwise. Purchasing land in a high-value area requires enormous upfront capital. A land lease eliminates this barrier, allowing developers to preserve their cash for construction and operations. This arrangement reduces initial equity requirements, increases investment yield, and provides liquidity for other projects. Tenants can focus their resources on building quality structures rather than tying up capital in land purchases. Landowners benefit significantly as well. They receive steady, reliable income from credit-worthy tenants without giving up ownership of their asset. The land continues to appreciate in value over time while generating consistent cash flow. Most land lease agreements include provisions allowing rent increases throughout the lease term, protecting landowners against inflation. Additionally, many leases contain reversion clauses, meaning any improvements built on the land transfer to the landowner when the lease expires. A well-structured land lease agreement addresses several critical elements. The lease term must align with the development's life cycle, typically 50 to 99 years. Rent provisions include both initial rates and escalation clauses tied to inflation or market conditions. Use restrictions specify what activities are permitted on the land, whether commercial, agricultural, or residential. Maintenance obligations usually fall to the tenant, including upkeep of structures and improvements. The agreement clarifies ownership of improvements during the lease term and what happens when the lease ends. Early termination provisions and default remedies protect both parties if circumstances change. Understanding subordination is crucial when evaluating land leases. Subordination refers to the priority of ownership claims on an asset. In a subordinated ground lease, the landowner accepts a lower priority position, allowing a lender to have first claim on the property. This might seem disadvantageous for landowners, but subordination can be strategic. If the borrowed funds finance improvements that increase the value of adjacent properties the landowner owns, everyone benefits. Subordination may also allow landowners to negotiate higher lease payments and more favorable terms. In contrast, an unsubordinated ground lease keeps the landowner in the top priority position. If the tenant defaults, lenders have no legal right to assume land ownership. These leases typically have lower rental rates because they offer greater protection for landowners. Lenders generally prefer not to finance unsubordinated leases, but they will consider lease payments when determining loan amounts. The reduced risk for landowners comes with trade-offs in financing flexibility for tenants. Both tenants and landowners face distinct advantages and disadvantages in land lease arrangements. Tenants enjoy lower upfront costs compared to purchasing land outright. They gain access to premium locations that might otherwise be unaffordable and can potentially deduct lease expenses for tax purposes. However, tenants miss out on land appreciation benefits. Uncertainty looms at lease expiration, when renewal negotiations may not go favorably. Securing financing can be challenging, especially with unsubordinated leases, where lenders have limited collateral protection. For landowners, the benefits include ongoing passive income and retained ownership, with long-term appreciation potential. When leases end, landowners may acquire valuable improvements at no cost, depending on contract terms. The drawbacks include limited control over property use unless explicitly restricted in the lease. Tenant default poses risks, particularly in subordinated arrangements. Long-term leases may also restrict future redevelopment opportunities if market conditions change. Valuing a ground lease follows similar principles to valuing other income streams. Analysts project lease rates, escalation schedules, and terminal values, then apply an appropriate discount rate to determine present value. The discount rate depends heavily on the risk profile of projected cash flows. Several factors influence this risk assessment. Subordination status plays a major role, as does the creditworthiness of the tenant. Location potential matters significantly. A ground lease in a thriving urban center carries different risk than one in a declining area. The value and quality of improvements also factor into the equation, along with specific lease provisions. Ground leases typically generate modest yields due to restricted cash flows. However, these cash flows are relatively safe, especially for unsubordinated leases with their superior claim position. While direct land ownership may be preferable in some situations, land leases offer compelling benefits without transferring asset ownership. Financing improvements on leased land presents unique challenges. Lenders often hesitate to finance developments on leased land, particularly with unsubordinated leases, where collateral is limited. Lenders typically require lease terms that extend well beyond the loan duration, often demanding substantial time remaining after loan maturity. Tenants may need the ability to assign the lease to another party as a financing condition. Insurance requirements in land leases usually obligate tenants to carry liability, casualty, and property insurance for improvements. Landowners are typically named as additional insured parties, protecting their interests in the property. Land leases represent a sophisticated real estate tool that benefits both developers and property owners. They provide access to prime locations without massive capital outlays, generate steady income for landowners, and create opportunities that might not exist otherwise. The key to successful land lease arrangements lies in carefully structured agreements that protect both parties' interests. Whether the lease is subordinated or unsubordinated, whether it spans 50 or 99 years, the terms must align with the financial goals and risk tolerance of everyone involved. Given the complexity of these arrangements, legal guidance is essential when drafting or reviewing land lease agreements. Proper structuring ensures that both tenants and landowners can maximize the benefits while minimizing the risks inherent in separating land ownership from improvement ownership.